"I'm sorry, sir," the hotel manager said in a calm voice that somehow carried across the entire ballroom. "The account linked to the black card has been permanently closed." The music stopped. Champagne glasses froze halfway to smiling lips. Every head turned toward the groom, toward my ex-fiancé, toward the man who had stolen my future and tried to buy his happily ever after with my money. Derek's confident smile disappeared so fast it was almost funny. "What?" he snapped, holding out the sleek black card like the manager had made a mistake. "Run it again." "We already have, sir." "There has to be an error." "There isn't." The manager's expression never changed. The issuing account was closed less than 15 minutes ago by the account owner. Silence. Then the whispers started. "What do you mean, the account owner? I thought Derek paid for everything. Who's the account owner?" My heart pounded so hard I thought everyone could hear it. I slowly stood from the back corner of the ballroom. Every eye shifted toward me, including Derek's. The color drained from his face. "You?" he whispered. I smiled for the first time in months. "Yes," I said. "Me." His bride-to-be turned around so quickly that the expensive veil almost slipped off her carefully curled hair. "Vanessa. The woman who had stolen my fiancé. The woman now wearing the custom wedding dress Derek once promised he would only ever see me wear." She stared at me as if she'd seen a ghost. "What is she doing here?" she asked. I looked around the room. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above us. Fresh white roses covered every table. A string quartet stood awkwardly beside the dance floor, unsure whether to leave or keep pretending everything was normal. This was supposed to be the wedding of the year. It had become the beginning of the truth. "You're ruining my wedding," Vanessa hissed. I laughed. "My wedding was ruined first." Derek took several angry steps toward me. "You had no right." "No right." I almost couldn't believe those words came out of his mouth. "No right to stop you from spending over $300,000 from an account that belongs to me?" The room exploded with gasps. His parents looked horrified. Vanessa blinked several times. "What account?" Derek looked trapped. He knew exactly what was coming. "You told everyone," I continued, "that your business became wildly successful." He nodded nervously. "It did." "No." I shook my head. "My family's investment company funded every dollar." His mother looked at him. "Derek." He couldn't answer. Because lying had finally become impossible. The hotel manager cleared his throat. "Unfortunately, unless another payment method is provided immediately, we will have to cancel today's reception." Vanessa grabbed Derek's arm. "You said everything was paid." "It was supposed to be." He looked at me with pure panic. "What did you do?" I took a deep breath. "I stopped letting you steal from me." His eyes filled with anger. "You're going to regret this." "Maybe. Maybe not." But for the first time in nearly 2 years, I wasn't afraid of him. That moment didn't happen by accident. It was the ending of a story that began long before anyone in that ballroom knew my name. My name is Madison Carter. I'm 33 years old. Growing up, I believed loyalty could fix almost anything. If you loved hard enough, if you forgave enough, if you sacrificed enough, people would eventually love you the same way. I was wrong. My parents raised me in Chicago. Not with endless hugs or emotional speeches. They taught me something different. Integrity. My father built one of the largest private investment firms in the Midwest. My mother ran children's hospitals across 3 states. People assumed that because my family had money, my life must have been perfect. It wasn't. Money buys comfort. It doesn't buy trust. My parents worked constantly. When they were home, they expected excellence. Straight A's. Respect. Responsibility. I spent most of my childhood trying to earn praise that came in short sentences. "Good job. We're proud of you." Those words felt like trophies. Maybe that's why I became someone who constantly tried to prove her worth. After college, I refused to join the family company immediately. I wanted people to respect me for who I was. Not because of my last name. So I worked in non-profit financial consulting. Long hours. Average pay. Meaningful work. That's where I met Derek. He wasn't rich. He wasn't powerful. He wasn't even particularly successful. But he was charming. He knew exactly what to say. "You actually listen," he told me during our first lunch together. "Most people wait for their turn to talk." He made me laugh. He remembered little things. My favorite coffee. The books I liked. The songs I played while driving. For the first year, he felt like home. When he proposed after 3 years together, I cried so hard I couldn't even answer immediately. He laughed. "Is that a yes?" "Yes. Always yes. If only I'd known." Looking back now, the warning signs weren't hidden. I just called them love. Started with little favors. "My card isn't working. Can you cover dinner? I'll pay you back Friday." He always did. First. Then it became vacations, furniture, business ideas. I just need one investor to believe in me. Believed. More than anyone. When he wanted to launch his own luxury event planning company, I introduced him to people through my family's network. He promised me something. "I don't want your parents' money. I just want a chance." I admired that. So instead of giving him cash directly, I convinced my father to let Derek's new company receive a managed business account through one of our investment programs. Strict oversight. Business expenses only. Technically, the account belonged to my family's firm. I was the authorized owner. Derek had spending privileges. It wasn't supposed to become his personal wallet. For almost a year, everything seemed fine. His company grew. Clients increased. He thanked me constantly. "You saved my life." Well, I unknowingly destroyed my own. About 18 months before that wedding disaster, Derek started changing. He became secretive, protective of his phone, working late, weekend meetings. Whenever I asked questions, he kissed my forehead. "You worry too much." Maybe I did. Until one afternoon, I walked into his office carrying lunch. His assistant looked surprised. "I thought you weren't coming today." "What do you mean?" She said Derek was with his fiancée. Smiled. "I am his fiancée." The assistant's face turned white. "Oh." She realized her mistake. Someone else had been pretending to be me. I didn't know it then. But that simple sentence would begin unraveling every lie Derek had ever told. And the woman pretending to be his fiancée was someone I knew far better than I ever imagined. I stood frozen outside Derek's office, still holding the paper bag with our lunch. The assistant looked like she wanted the floor to open beneath her. I'm so sorry," she whispered. I thought you were someone else." I forced myself to smile even though my stomach had already tied itself into knots. "It's okay." It wasn't okay. Not even close. "Who was here?" I asked as casually as I could. She hesitated. "I don't think I should say." "You already did." She looked around to make sure no one else was listening. "A woman comes here a lot." "How often?" "At least twice a week." My fingers tightened around the bag. "She tells everyone she's Derek's fiancée." I felt like all the air had disappeared from the hallway. "What does she look like?" The assistant frowned. "Blonde." My heartbeat slowed. Derek didn't know many blondes. Then she added another detail. "She usually wears bright red lipstick." Everything inside me stopped. Vanessa. Vanessa Collins. She wasn't just some stranger. She had been one of my closest friends since college. We met during freshman orientation. She was loud where I was quiet, fearless where I was cautious. She convinced me to go to football games instead of staying in the library every weekend. She dragged me onto dance floors even though I had 2 left feet. When my grandmother passed away, Vanessa drove 6 hours through a snowstorm just to sit beside me at the funeral. At least that's what I believed back then. I never imagined she could become the person who would smile while destroying my life. I thanked the assistant, left the lunch on her desk and walked back to my car. I didn't cry. Not yet. I sat behind the steering wheel for almost an hour, replaying every strange moment from the past year. Every cancelled date. Every unexplained business trip. Every time Derek claimed Vanessa had just stopped by because she needed advice about her marketing career. How had I missed it? Or maybe I hadn't wanted to see it. That evening, Derek came home carrying flowers. White lilies. My favorite. He kissed my forehead. Long day. I stared at him. How was your meeting? He smiled naturally. Boring. With who? A hotel manager. I nodded slowly. No one else. No. One simple word. One enormous lie. I wanted to scream. Instead I smiled. I made your favorite pasta. He wrapped his arms around me. You're amazing. Those words used to make me feel loved. That night, they made me feel sick. From that day forward I stopped asking questions. I started collecting answers. For weeks I watched, listened, paid attention. Derek became careless because he thought I trusted him completely. He didn't realize trust had already been replaced with quiet observation. One Friday afternoon, he left his laptop open while taking a phone call outside. Normally, I never invaded anyone's privacy. But nothing about my relationship was normal anymore. An email notification popped onto the screen. From a luxury bridal boutique. Subject line. Final dress fitting confirmation. I frowned. We hadn't scheduled my fitting. Click. The appointment wasn't under my name. It was under Vanessa Collins. My hands began shaking. Attached was a receipt. Paid in full. Using Derek's business account. The same account connected to my family's investment firm. Kept reading. Booze. Jewelry. Designer veil. Private alterations. Everything charged to the account. Nearly $40,000. I quietly took pictures with my phone before closing the laptop exactly as I'd found it. When Derek walked back inside, he smiled. You wouldn't believe that phone call. Smiled back. Try me. He laughed. Just work drama. Another lie. That weekend, Vanessa invited me to brunch. The irony still makes me laugh. She sat across from me wearing oversized sunglasses and a huge smile. You look tired, she said. I've been working. You should let Derek spoil you more. I probably should. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. You deserve someone who treats you like a queen. If I hadn't already known, I would have believed every word. She was that convincing. As she talked, I noticed something. Around her wrist. A gold bracelet. Tiny emerald stones. My heart skipped. I had bought that bracelet for Derek 6 months earlier. It had been engraved. D&M. Forever. I knew every scratch on it. He had told me he'd lost it during a business trip. Apparently, he had simply given it to another woman. I looked at Vanessa. That's a beautiful bracelet. She smiled. My boyfriend surprised me. Oh. He has amazing taste. I can see that. She had no idea I recognized it. Or maybe, she assumed I was too blind to notice. By the time brunch ended, I wasn't confused anymore. I was furious. Oh, I needed proof. Not suspicion. Not guesses. Proof. Because people like Derek never admitted the truth unless they had nowhere left to hide. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. 3 weeks later, Derek announced exciting news. My company just landed the biggest wedding contract in our history. Smiled. Really? Luxury venue. He practically glowed. Celebrity-level decorations. How exciting. He pulled out his phone. I'll be busy for months. I understand. He leaned over and kissed my cheek. Everything I'm building is for our future. I almost laughed. Our future. Later that night, after he fell asleep, his phone buzzed. Normally he kept it face down. This time he'd forgotten. A message appeared across the lock screen. Vanessa. I can't wait to marry you. My chest tightened. Another message followed seconds later. She still has no clue, face with tears of joy. I stared at those words until the screen went dark. No clue. They weren't just having an affair. They were laughing about it together. Laughing about me. The next morning, I called someone I hadn't spoken to about personal matters in years. My father. He answered immediately. Madison. I need your help. His voice changed instantly. What happened? I think Derek has been stealing from the investment account. There was a long silence. Finally he spoke. How much? I don't know yet. Come to the office. That afternoon, our firm's forensic accounting team quietly began reviewing every transaction connected to Derek's business account. None of us were prepared for what they were about to uncover. The fraud wasn't thousands. It wasn't even hundreds of thousands. It was much, much worse. If you were in Madison's place, would you have confronted Derek immediately, or kept gathering evidence first? Let us know in the comments. And before you continue, tell us where you're watching from. We'd love to see how many people from around the world are following this story together. When my father called me back 2 days later, he didn't ask me to come to his office. He asked me to come to his house. That alone told me something was terribly wrong. My parents rarely mixed business with family. If Dad wanted to meet at home, it meant this wasn't just about numbers anymore. I arrived just after sunset. The lights in the living room were already on. My mother sat beside my father on the couch, her hands wrapped tightly around a mug of untouched tea. Neither of them smiled. Dad motioned for me to sit. I wish I had better news. My stomach tightened. How bad is it? He slid a thick folder across the coffee table. Opened it. Pages and pages of transactions. Highlighted amounts. Invoices. Wire transfers. Luxury purchases. Private flights. Jewelry. Designer clothing. 5-star resorts. Everything had one thing in common. None of it had anything to do with Derek's event planning business. Dad folded his hands. Our forensic accountants finished the first review. I looked up. How much? He answered quietly. Just over $1,487,000. I couldn't breathe. What? The spending happened over 18 months. I shook my head. That's impossible. I wish it were. I flipped through the pages faster. Every receipt felt like another punch. Cartier necklace. A yacht rental in Miami. A villa in Santorini. Porsche lease. Spa weekends. Private shopping appointments. The account had paid for a life I never knew existed. And then I found something even worse. A payment labeled wedding venue deposit. My hands froze. The date was 6 months earlier. 6 months. They had been planning their wedding while Derek still kissed me goodbye every morning. While he still told me he loved me. While we were choosing paint colors for the house we were supposed to buy together. Mom reached over and held my hand. Oh, sweetheart. I didn't cry. Couldn't. The pain had become too heavy for tears. Dad looked ashamed. I should have caught this sooner. No. I looked at him. This isn't your fault. He sighed. He forged business justifications. Small withdrawals became larger ones. Every quarter he submitted fake invoices. How did no one notice? He earned trust first. That sentence hit me harder than the dollar amount. He earned trust first. That's exactly how betrayal works. It never starts with stealing. It starts with convincing you that you'd never have to check. Dad closed the folder. The legal department recommends freezing the account immediately. When? We can do it tonight. I thought about Derek. About Vanessa. About the wedding. Then I asked the question surprising even myself. No. Dad frowned. What do you mean? I don't want him to know. You want to leave the account active? For now. Mom looked concerned. Madison. They think they're smarter than everyone. I slowly leaned forward. They've been lying for almost 2 years. Dad studied my face. What are you thinking? I want the truth to come out where they can never hide from it. He remained silent. Finally he nodded. I trust your judgment. For the first time in months, someone trusted mine. Over the next several weeks, I quietly became someone Derek never expected. Patient, observant, invisible. I stopped arguing, stopped asking questions, stopped wondering why he came home late. He mistook my silence for surrender. It was strategy. One evening he walked into the kitchen smiling. "I have exciting news. Oh, I've been invited to organize an exclusive destination wedding. That's wonderful. I'll need to travel more." "Of course." He kissed my forehead. "I knew you'd understand." Smiled. "I always do." He never noticed that I no longer kissed him back. 3 days later I followed him. Not because I enjoyed it. Because I needed certainty. His GPS location led me to an upscale restaurant downtown. I waited outside. Exactly 23 minutes later, Vanessa arrived. She wasn't dressed like someone meeting a friend. She wore a white sundress. Her hair curled perfectly. She ran into Derek's arms. They kissed. Not quickly. Not secretly. Comfortably. Like two people who believed they had nothing left to hide. I recorded everything from across the street. Every embrace. Every laugh. Every kiss. Then something happened I never expected. Derek got down on one knee. Again. He proposed. To the same woman he'd already promised forever. Through the restaurant window, I watched Vanessa cover her mouth in fake surprise before throwing herself into his arms. People around them applauded. Champagne arrived. A violinist appeared. The entire proposal had been planned. Just like every lie. I drove home in complete silence. That night Derek climbed into bed beside me. "You awake?" "A little." "I love you." The words floated through the darkness. Once they would have melted my heart. Now they sounded rehearsed. Like lines from a script. "I love you too," I whispered. It was the last lie I ever told him. The following week brought another shock. Vanessa called me. "Coffee tomorrow." I almost laughed. She wanted coffee. After accepting an engagement ring from my fiancé. "Sure." At the cafe, she seemed unusually nervous. She stirred her drink without taking a sip. "I've been thinking." "About what?" "You deserve someone who puts you first." I stared at her. "What makes you say that?" "I don't know." A shrug. "I just think. Maybe you and Derek have grown apart." I wanted to ask if she practiced these speeches in the mirror. Instead I smiled politely. "Relationships go through seasons." "They do." She looked relieved. "You'll be okay no matter what." There it was. She wanted me prepared. Prepared to be abandoned. Prepared to quietly disappear so she wouldn't have to feel guilty. Too bad for her. I wasn't planning to disappear. The final piece arrived a week later. One of my father's investigators handed me a flash drive. We legally recovered deleted company emails. I plugged it into my laptop. Hundreds of messages. Most were financial. Then I found a folder simply labeled Future. Inside were emails between Derek and Vanessa. The first one made my blood run cold. "Vanessa. Once we're married, do you think she'll ever figure out the account?" "Derek. She's too trusting. Besides, if she does, we'll already be gone." Another email. "Her family thinks I'm building a business. They're actually funding our honeymoon." Then another. "After the wedding we'll move the remaining money overseas." Covered my mouth. This wasn't just cheating. This wasn't just theft. They had planned to disappear with everything they could steal. Called my father immediately. "We're done waiting." He answered calmly. "I've already prepared the paperwork." "When?" He looked at me through the video call. "When they least expect it." Neither Derek nor Vanessa knew that every transaction had now been documented. Every email preserved. Every lie backed by evidence. They believed they were counting down to the happiest day of their lives. They had no idea they were actually counting down to the day everything would collapse. What would you have done after reading those emails? Would you have confronted them privately? Or waited until the truth exposed itself? Share your thoughts in the comments. The wedding invitation arrived in my mailbox on a rainy Tuesday morning. For a full minute I just stared at it. Heavy ivory cardstock, gold embossed lettering. A satin ribbon wrapped neatly around the edges. It looked elegant, expensive, perfect. Exactly the kind of wedding my money had been paying for. I opened it with surprisingly steady hands. Derek Thompson and Vanessa Collins request the honor of your presence. My name wasn't printed anywhere, of course. But someone had slipped the invitation into my mailbox anyway. There was no return address. Just a small handwritten note tucked inside. Now you know. Please don't let them get away with this. No signature. I read it 3 times. Someone knew the truth. Or at least part of it. I immediately called my father. Someone sent me their invitation. He was quiet for a moment. That's unexpected. There was a note. What did it say? I read it aloud. Dad leaned back in his chair. They're making enemies. Good. He gave me a serious look. Madison listened carefully. The investigation has expanded. What does that mean? It means Derek wasn't only stealing from our investment account. My stomach dropped. What else? He forged contracts with vendors. He delayed payments. He opened credit lines using fake financial statements. Closed my eyes. So this is bigger than us. Much bigger. The authorities had already been notified. Our attorneys had compiled months of evidence. Bank records, emails, invoices, witness statements. Everything was ready. Everything except one thing. Timing. We still wait. Yes. Dad nodded. Until the wedding. Why? Because that's where they'll expose themselves. It sounded almost unbelievable. But he was right. Derek had spent months telling everyone he was a self-made success. The wedding was his victory lap. It would also become the place where every lie unraveled. The next few weeks were strangely peaceful. For the first time in nearly 2 years, I wasn't chasing answers. I already had them. Instead, I focused on myself. I started therapy. Walking into that office the first day felt harder than confronting Derek ever had. Dr. Harper smiled warmly. What brings you here? I laughed bitterly. How much time do you have? Over the following sessions, she helped me understand something I had struggled with my entire life. I wasn't weak because I trusted people. Trust wasn't my flaw. Their dishonesty was. You loved honestly, she told me. That's never something to be ashamed of. Those words stayed with me. For months I had blamed myself. Maybe I worked too much. Maybe I wasn't exciting enough. Maybe I missed the warning signs. Dr. Harper gently shook her head. Healthy people don't expect betrayal. For the first time I stopped asking what I had done wrong. Instead, I started asking why I had ignored my own instincts. Meanwhile, Derek continued pretending everything was perfect. He even called me one evening. I've been thinking. About what? I miss us. The nerve of him. I thought you were busy planning weddings. He laughed. You know how business is. Business. That was one word for it. I've been under a lot of stress. I'm sure. I hope we can stay friends. Friends. After everything. I wish you the best, Derek. You do. Absolutely. It wasn't a lie. I truly wished him exactly what he deserved. He sighed with relief. I knew you'd understand. When the call ended, I blocked his number. Not because I was angry anymore. 'Cause I was finished. A week before the wedding, something unexpected happened. Vanessa showed up at my apartment. She stood outside holding a gift bag. When I opened the door, she smiled nervously. Can we talk? I folded my arms. I don't think we have anything left to say. It'll only take a minute. Against my better judgment, I let her in. She looked around awkwardly before sitting on the couch. I know this is strange. You think? She nodded. I never wanted to hurt you. I almost laughed. You've got an interesting way of showing that. Her eyes filled with tears. I fell in love. With my fiancé. She lowered her head. It wasn't planned. No betrayal ever is. She reached into the gift bag and pulled out a small velvet box. I wanted to return this. Inside was the emerald bracelet. The one I had given Derek. The engraving was still there. D&M. Forever. I found out it belonged to you, she whispered. You didn't know. He told me it was his. I stared at her. For the first time I realized something. Vanessa had known about me. But she hadn't known every lie Derek had told. He said you broke up months before. I didn't answer. He told me you were trying to get him back. I couldn't help shaking my head. He told me your family hated him because he wasn't rich. Another lie. She looked devastated. I didn't know what to believe. I looked directly into her eyes. When did you find out the truth? She hesitated. A few weeks ago. And you still decided to marry him. Silence. That silence answered everything. She knew enough. She simply didn't care enough. Finally she stood. I hope someday you forgive me. I walked her to the door. I hope someday you forgive yourself. She left without another word. As her car disappeared down the street, I felt something unexpected. Not anger. Not sadness. Relief. Because closure doesn't always come from apologies. Sometimes it comes from realizing the people who hurt you are trapped by the very lies they created. The morning of the wedding arrived bright and warm. Chicago's skyline shimmered under a clear blue sky. Guests dressed in designer suits and elegant gowns filled the luxury hotel. The media had even shown up because Derek's company had become well known in the city's event industry. Everything looked flawless. Exactly as Derek had imagined. Exactly as Vanessa had dreamed. Exactly as I had planned. I wasn't there to stop the ceremony. I wasn't there to scream or throw drinks. Revenge had stopped appealing to me weeks ago. I wanted something much simpler. The truth. I walked into the hotel wearing a navy blue dress my mother had picked out. Dad squeezed my shoulder. You ready? Smiled. I've never been more ready. At that exact moment my father's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen. His expression changed. What is it? Yes. He slowly looked up at me. The bank just called. They found another transaction. How much? He swallowed. It isn't another expense. What is it? It's a transfer request. To where? He took a deep breath. Cayman Islands. When? His answer sent a chill through my entire body. 10 minutes ago. Was trying to empty the account before the ceremony even began. My father didn't hesitate. Freeze everything. The words were calm, firm, final. He wasn't speaking to me anymore. He was speaking into his phone. Our bank's fraud response team had been waiting for this exact moment. Immediately, he continued. Every linked account. Every authorized user. No exceptions. He ended the call and looked at me. They just lost access. I glanced toward the grand ballroom. Guests were laughing. Photographers were taking pictures. A violin played softly in the background. No one had any idea that the groom's financial world had just collapsed. Dad smiled for the first time in weeks. Ready? He nodded. Let's finish this. We walked inside. The ceremony itself had already ended. I arrived just in time to hear the officiant announce. I now present Mr. and Mrs. Derek Thompson. The room erupted in applause. They kissed. Cameras flashed. People cheered. Looking at them, you would have thought they had the perfect love story. Only 3 people in that ballroom knew the truth. My father. The hotel manager. Me. The reception began with cocktails. Servers carried silver trays through the room. A jazz band replaced the string quartet. Derek stood in the center of the ballroom, shaking hands and accepting congratulations like a man who believed he'd won. Then the hotel manager approached him. Mr. Thompson. Derek smiled confidently. Yes. We're ready to settle the remaining balance before dinner service. He reached into his tuxedo pocket. No problem. He pulled out the black card. The very card connected to my family's investment account. The card he had treated like his own personal fortune. He handed it over without a second thought. The manager inserted it into the payment terminal. A few seconds passed. Then another. A soft beep echoed through the room. The manager looked at the screen. "I'm sorry, sir." Derek frowned. "What's wrong?" "The transaction has been declined." He laughed awkwardly. "Try again." The manager did. Another beep. "I'm afraid the account has been permanently closed." The ballroom fell silent. Exactly as I remembered it. Derek stared at the card. "That's impossible." "It isn't." Vanessa stepped closer. "What do you mean it's closed?" "The account owner revoked all access." Derek looked around wildly. Then his eyes found mine. I stepped away from the back of the room. Every conversation stopped. Every camera slowly turned in my direction. I walked toward them without rushing. My heels echoed across the marble floor. One step, then another, until I stood only a few feet away. "You!" Derek's voice was barely above a whisper. "Hello, Derek." Vanessa's face turned pale. "What are you doing here?" "I came to watch the ending." Derek clenched his jaw. "You think this is funny?" "No." I looked around the room. "I think it's necessary." He pointed at the card. "You closed the account." "I did." "You had no right." I smiled sadly. "I had every right." I turned toward the guests. "My name is Madison Carter." Several people nodded in recognition. My family's name carried weight in Chicago's business community. I was the owner of the investment account that funded Derek's company. Gasps spread across the ballroom. I believed I was investing in a growing business. Pause. Instead, I financed vacations, jewelry, luxury cars. And today's wedding. Vanessa looked at Derek. What is she talking about? He didn't answer. Because he couldn't. At that moment, two detectives entered the ballroom. Behind them came two attorneys from my father's firm. The room became so quiet that you could hear glasses being set down. One detective approached Derek. "Mr. Thompson." He turned slowly. "Yes. We have a warrant regarding allegations of financial fraud, forgery, and theft." Vanessa stumbled backward. "No." The detective continued. "We'll need you to come with us." Derek laughed nervously. "This is a misunderstanding." One of the attorneys opened a folder. "It isn't." He calmly listed the evidence. Forged invoices, fake vendor contracts, fraudulent transfers, deleted emails that had been recovered, attempted offshore wire transfers, video evidence, witness statements, every lie, every dollar, every betrayal, documented. Derek looked at me. "Madison, please." It was the first time in months he'd said my name without confidence, without arrogance, without pretending to be in control. "I loved you." His voice cracked. "I know. I made mistakes. You made choices. They're the same thing." "No." I shook my head. "A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. A choice is stealing over $1 million from someone who trusted you." He lowered his head. Vanessa suddenly spoke. "I didn't know about the money." One detective looked at her. "We'll determine your level of involvement during the investigation." Her knees nearly gave out. She looked at me with tears streaming down her face. "I'm sorry." This time, I believe she meant it. But some apologies arrive after the damage is already done. And some bridges cannot be rebuilt. The detectives escorted Derek toward the exit. Halfway there, he turned around one last time. "You'll never forgive me." I thought about the sleepless nights, panic attacks, the lies, the humiliation. Then I answered honestly. "I already have." He looked confused. "I forgave you because I refused to let hatred control my life." I took a slow breath. "But forgiveness doesn't erase consequences." He nodded. For the first time. He had nothing left to say. As the doors closed behind him, the ballroom remained silent. Then people slowly began leaving. No music, no dancing, no celebration. Just the sound of truth settling over a room built on lies. 3 months later, life looked very different. The stolen funds that could legally be recovered were returned. Derek eventually accepted a plea agreement after overwhelming evidence was presented against him. Several civil cases followed, and he was barred from managing financial operations for any company while serving his sentence and fulfilling court-ordered restitution. Vanessa testified truthfully during the investigation. She wasn't charged with the financial crimes because investigators found no evidence that she had participated in the fraud itself, though she was forced to live with the consequences of ignoring countless warning signs. As for me, I stayed in therapy. Not because I was broken, because healing deserves attention. I also joined my family's investment firm, not to hide behind our name, but to strengthen fraud prevention programs for small businesses and non-profit organizations. If my experience could stop someone else from being betrayed, then it wasn't wasted. A year later, I stood on the shore of Lake Michigan watching the sunset. The wind tugged gently at my jacket. My phone buzzed. It was a message from my mother. "Proud of you." Just 3 words. The words I had chased my entire childhood. This time, I smiled because I finally understood something. My worth had never depended on Derek's love, or my parents' approval, or anyone else's opinion. It came from the woman who chose honesty over revenge, boundaries over bitterness, and peace over pretending. Betrayal changed my life. But it didn't define it. I decided what would define it next. And that choice became the greatest victory of all. Have you ever experienced betrayal like this, or seen someone misuse trust for their own gain? What would you have done if you were in Madison's shoes? Share your story and your thoughts in the comments. Your experience might encourage someone else who needs the reminder that healing is possible.